Third episode of this show that I've been doing for 3 weeks now, because 3 episodes. And this is kind of a follow-up to the first one I did, which posed a question. And this is called The Answer, because it's going to be me kind of trying to answer the question or just going over the details of it. So I break all my videos down into chapters, and I put the chapter times in the description so you can just pick which part you want to watch. And I don't really have a lot of viewers at the moment. Nobody really watches when it's live or comments, and I barely get any comments. But I know that people watch because it says it has like 300 or 400 views on both of my previous episodes. So I have to assume that some people are seeing this and it's worth doing. And I'm going to keep doing it either way because I just have a lot to say. And I feel like I need to be able to say it even if nobody's listening. So I explained in the last episode that this is supposed to feel like a discussion, that it's not me telling you like a teacher or going to a class. This is just what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I've been thinking about. This is what I've learned and what I've figured out. And I've learned a lot just this year, but I I'm always open for questions because of that, which is why I say just if anything doesn't make sense, just ask in the comments. And I try to be open to every type of person, like regardless of religion or just whatever you could possibly believe. It I'm not dismissing it, but if you do ask a question that I'm planning on answering in a later episode, I'm gonna um, I'm gonna probably just tell you to wait and watch that and then ask it there. So this one is about how, you know, what is the answer to life, to just everything. And I want to start by kind of breaking it down with like the process of elimination. You start by what you know it definitely isn't. So first of all, we have two possibilities: that everything in the universe, everything that exists, is just completely random. Nothing happens for a reason. Everything is a coincidence. It's just things firing off and reacting, and nothing matters, and it's eventually all just going to end. If if that is the case, then nothing matters because it's eventually. Am I the only one who's watching this? I don't know. It says there's one other person watching. Um, yeah, but you are the only person who's commented so far. Now it says there's one person watching. See, this is what I mean. I don't have a big audience, but hopefully that changes eventually because I would like to be able to have this actually feel like a discussion. But like I said, I'm going to do it either way. So what I have written down, I have notes to, keep me focused to make sure I say everything. The first thing I have written down is that if everything ends in nothing, then it's as if nothing was ever there. So if everything that currently exists is eventually going to just stop existing completely, it'll be as if it was never there to begin with, which means that nothing matters at all. It's as if nothing exists now because it's just on an inevitable path to stop existing at some point. And if it's possible for something to stop existing, that means that there must have also been a time when it didn't exist. And I think I addressed this in the first episode that I did, where I talked about how nothing isn't real. So if you can picture a time, let's say the universe existed, the Big Bang, whatever, and there was a time when there was nothing. I'm sorry, somebody's making noise upstairs. Um, Basically, the universe didn't always exist, so there was a time before it existed, and that was just nothing. Absolute white or black or nothing. I mean, it wouldn't look like anything because it's nothing. But the thing is that if there was a time that nothing existed, it would have stayed that way because nothing can't do anything. It can't create a universe. It can't do anything. So if there was a time when nothing existed, it would have remained that way, which means that everything that exists now must have always existed. And that begs the question, what really is everything? Is it possible to get out of everything? Is it possible to make it to like the edge of the universe or go into another universe in the multiverse? Or is there an end? Is there eventually a point where you make it, you travel so far that you're eventually no longer in something? You've made it to the edge of something. I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can even picture that. Traveling into nothing. People think that you can get to nothing um, by like dying and then you stop functioning. Now, this again goes to the idea of is everything pointless or is there meaning? But I think if everything has always existed, there has to be something. It can't just be random. And if it's always existed, then why would it eventually stop existing? There's really no logic in that way of thinking. And I've heard a lot of different viewpoints because I talk about this a lot with different people. But I don't understand any words you are talking, but it sounds cool. Okay. Um, well, this probably isn't ideal. I'm a little bit late today because I do this every Sunday at 4 p.m. and today I'm late because I had to get a haircut and then other stuff just like distracted me and now I'm doing it later and people are making noise. This is just an unusual episode, but it's fine because it's like I said, not a lot of people watch. But if more people watch this in the future, it's not, I hope it's not distracting from what I'm trying to say. And I hope I'm making sense. Like I said, you can ask me questions in the comments. If I'm not making sense, I can explain it. But we can really only understand how things work and their functions. We can we can take a look at something and figure out what it is and figure out what its purpose is, what it does. But knowing its function, knowing how it works and what it does, doesn't really mean you understand why it exists or what its actual, bigger purpose is. Like you look at, I don't know, like a wood chip or a leaf or just something, and you're like, this is just useless. A leaf just fell off a tree. A wood chip is just lying on the ground, and a wood chip is usually a man-made thing if you see it like on a playground or something. But you would think that it doesn't have any use, but you still know what it was made for, and you know why it falls off the tree, the leaf, but you don't know what everything really exists for. And I think it's kind of limiting to just say nothing exists for any reason at all. That seems like a dangerous conclusion to jump to, and I really don't think that we should be jumping to conclusions either way. You have to keep your mind open, otherwise you're just preventing yourself from going as far as you could have. So I hope that makes sense. And I have written down here, you can't get to where you're going if you refuse to get off the bus. And what that means basically is a lot of people tend to hold on to things. People will clench. And the third chapter I have is called Clenched Climbing, which I'm gonna get into. But people people do this a lot. They will see something as their lifeline and they will cling to it and hold on to it like it's all that they have. And it's from like societal brainwashing and a lot of other problems. And it's a problem in almost all cultures, all major cultures in the world, where people feel like they need to live a certain way to survive. It's all rooted in survival. That's what it comes down to, but it's not logical. You're not thinking. And I'm going to talk more about that in the third chapter, but I have it written down here. This first chapter is called Temporary is Pointless, because I think that if everything is eventually going to end, the universe that it exists now is just eventually going to stop existing and there will be nothing. If there's nothing, it'll be as if nothing ever existed, so it's pointless. The only thing that really matters is what's going to exist forever. That's what we should be focused on. And we know from science that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it's also important to note that that's not like technically considered a fact just because we haven't seen evidence of energy being able to be destroyed. People still think it's possible that we could find a way to do that at some point. I don't know. There's a lot of like uncertainty there, but we have to acknowledge though that on some level, there must have been something that always existed. Because, like I said, if there was ever a time when nothing existed, it would have stayed that way. So there must have at least been something that was able to allow for things to be the way that they are now. So there's really no way to work it out in your head where you rule out the idea of something just having always existed. So you have to start embracing different concepts about infinity and time, like time, thinking of it as a line, or maybe it's a circle, maybe everything will go back, maybe the universe was created by the universe or something and everything goes in a circle. But what if it's a spiral? What if it's another shape? What if it's not just a line? What if it's something that we can't even make sense of? There's so many things going on, and it's definitely complex. And we only need to understand so much. But that's the thing, is that we ask too many questions without focusing on what we actually need to know. What you should be asking is, what do I need to know and what do I need to do before I die? Because that's really all you could ever need to know. Everything else is just for fun, just brainstorming just because you feel like it. But we don't we think that if we figure everything out, then we'll know what we're supposed to do with our lives. But that's not the question we're asking. So we get distracted a lot, and that's not good. So I'm going to move on to the second chapter now. Everything is real. So the first line that I have is that you'll be you for the rest of your life, so you're all that's real. And what that means is that you are never going to be somebody else. You're never going to be something else. You're you're just you. You see through your eyes everything that you think, everything that you feel, everything that you touch. It's just your own perspective. It's just the way that you see the world. And that's going to be you forever. So you don't really need to, even if your consciousness is just your brain, or if you're eventually just going to stop functioning, your consciousness, your body, your personality, if that all stops and you just become a lifeless dead body, then it still doesn't really make a difference, because when you were alive, you were all that you could see. You're never going to be somebody else. Even if you believe in reincarnation, I think it's still you there, even though it's a different body. But like I said, I'm not here to dismiss anybody's beliefs. It's meant to be a discussion. So if you're always going to be you, and everything that you see is it's basically all that's real. All that really matters to you is your own perspective. But it's it's also important to know that you really can't take good care of yourself if you're not thinking about, oh my god, somebody somebody is somebody's lost, I think. I don't know. I'm sorry guys, I'm a little bit more frantic today than usual. Last week I don't think I was this nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. I think it's just because this was delayed and it's today's just a mess. I'm really sorry about this. It won't be like this next week, I promise. But like I said, I will answer your questions in the comments when the video is over. So a dream feels real until you wake up, and vice versa. So you're having a dream and that feels like it's real. That's what's happening right now. And then you wake up and that feels real, and then you look at the dream and you're like, that wasn't real. So everything feels real while it's happening. And how do you know it's not? It's kind of like a question of what really matters. And you can learn from science. Like I said, science will show you how things work and its function. It won't tell you why it exists, because you can't see things in that big of a grand scheme. And that's not to say that it's impossible. It's just something that we haven't figured out how to do yet. And and the last thing I have written here is, you can't explore the world if you're just afraid of being lied to. And this is not to say that you should just trust everybody and trust everything. Trust is a whole other topic I could do a video on. But you can't be paranoid either. You have to find a balance between just, I trust everybody, everybody's always telling the truth. Obviously that's not true. Nobody's telling the truth because nobody knows everything. And people lie. That's just a reality of it. Even people that you think you can trust are capable of lying. And you have to find a balance between where you're walking around nervous, that everything is a conspiracy, everything is out to get you, and you don't know what you can trust. This is lying to me, this is lying to me, everybody's lying to me, everybody's trying to, trick me into doing something, everybody's trying to brainwash me. That way of thinking is not helpful to anybody, and especially not you. Where's that going to get you? How are you going to learn anything from that or get anywhere from that? You have to learn how to control yourself. Somebody said, "What is this?" This is part of a series that I'm doing, which is just a discussion about big life topics. And I'm starting with the more existential stuff, and then I'm going to go into other things. But this is only the third episode, so this one is called The Answer because it's supposed to be kind of big and existential, which is probably why I'm nervous, because I've had a lot of arguments with people about these topics, and it makes it hard to be confident in what I'm saying. But I think I know what I'm talking about, and I'm I'll be able to explain it better in the comments if you just tell me what didn't make sense to you. So I think I covered everything that I have for the second chapter. I'm going to move on to the third chapter now. And this is kind of a goofy title. It's called Clenched Climbing. And this is about fear. So fear is reactionary, fight or flight that helps to get you out of immediate danger. You see a lion in front of you and you immediately think, I have to run. Or maybe you see a lion with your friend and then you have to make a decision. Do I try to help my friend or do I just take off? And you need to actually be there to make that decision. You can't just immediately react and then run off. And it could be somebody that you really, really love. This could be your best friend since childhood. And if you don't stop and think and you just react, you could leave your friend there. And then your friend's gonna die, or your friend could trip and then you don't go back for them. Like things like this, there's really no right answer for every situation. Everything is different, but you have to be conscious. You have to be there aware of what you're doing and not just being reactionary. And basically, I don't think that there's really anything to be afraid of because everything that we fear is temporary and subjective. It's like failed goals we made up. We get these ideas in our head that things need to be a certain way. That you make it. I'm going to use an example of like American culture where you're told that you need to get a job and make money and hold on to that job, or get married and hold on to that person, and all of these things that we're being taught to hold on to. And religion always does that. They'll tell you that you need to hold on to things. And to clarify, I'm talking about marriage with that, like, soulmates and stuff. I'm not saying I don't believe in soulmates. I'm just saying that we don't, you shouldn't take anything just in blind faith. Like I said in the last chapter, you don't want to just believe everything you hear because not everybody's telling the truth. But you also want to find a balance between that and being paranoid, because either way is not, it's reactionary on both ends. It's like going to two extreme ends. You have to find in between. Everything in life is about finding something in between the two extreme ends, like black and white, or you could be gray in the middle. And that's, there's ways to misinterpret that, but I'll try to clarify that later. So I think that if you are afraid of something, it's not lasting. You're afraid that you're gonna get fired, or you're afraid that you're gonna lose your partner, or maybe you want a promotion in life, and you can't get that until you let go of what you have already. You have to be willing to get off the bus if you want to get to where you're going. If you're gonna get on a plane, you have to get off the plane. If you're sitting there saying, no, I like where I am right now, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to move forward. So to me, this is just like common sense, but a lot of people don't think of it that way because they're being reactionary. They're letting fear drive them. And it's not logical. If you really stop and think about it, you could say, okay, well, how do I really know that any of this is bad? So I said, break down everything you're afraid of to the root and see what's left. And you're not going to have anything there. Because if you really say, think about everything that you don't want to let go of, everything that you're afraid of, and you just break it down and say, this is why I'm afraid of it. This is what makes it scary. This is this, this is that. If you do that and you break everything down, you're going to say, okay, well, I'm afraid of this because of this. And then why is that scary? And then why is that scary? And why is that scary? And why is that bad? And you're eventually going to realize that it all kind of depends on just instincts. You feel like you need to be alive. Well, you don't need to be alive. How do you know that? How do you know that you're supposed to be alive? You have to think about it first. So dying isn't always necessarily a bad thing. And either way, being afraid isn't always going to save your life. Sometimes you could be in a situation where the logical thing to do is to step on the gas. But if you do that, you'll be putting yourself in harm's way and you'll get in a car accident. And you wouldn't know that by being emotional or logical. You have to find a way to just listen to your gut instinct, your intuition. And to me, that's proof that there is something more going on here, but I don't want to have a discussion about that right now because some people don't believe in like intuition or anything involving those types of abilities, but I think that they're abilities that we all have and we can learn to use them, and it's actually effective. It works. So you can't really argue with results, but either way, my point is that you can't just listen to your fear to get you out of every situation, and there's no logical reason to be afraid of dying. And that's really all that you have to be afraid of, because everything else that you work to have in your life is because you want luxury or you want this or that. We just make things up that we think we're supposed to want and we don't really think about it. People need to be stopping and thinking and asking these questions more often. But the reason that I have the last chapter called Clenched Climbing, which I think is kind of a funny title, is because if you are climbing a mountain or running a marathon and you are clenched, your fists are clenched, your holes are clenched, and you're all tightly wound and nervous about everything, you're slowing yourself down. You're not going to win anything. You're not going to win a race. You're not going to be able to run a marathon. You're not going to be able to climb a mountain. You're not going to be able to do anything when you're clenched. And think about how that works in everyday life. If you're nervous about everything, if you have kind of a clenched attitude to life, you need to unclench and you need to trust that no matter what happens, nothing permanent is going to, you're not going to like die and then go to hell for living life the wrong way and then stay there for the rest of eternity. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to do another video about religion in a couple weeks. So if you have questions about what I just said, save it for that video because I'm going to be breaking it down there. But like that's really all people are afraid of, is if they think that something permanent, there's going to be some sort of permanent eternal punishment, because otherwise it's just going to be temporary and there's really no reason to be afraid of it if it's temporary. And again, being nervous and being clenched isn't going to help regardless. So you have to learn to relax. You have to be able to let go, because the universe works in kind of a flow. Things move. Everything is constantly in motion. That we also know from science, at least relative to something else. Everything is always moving. So you're not supposed to be stuck. You're not supposed to stand still. You're supposed to move along with the flow of everything. And you can't do that if you're clenched. It slows you down. You have to, think of you clenching the earth. Think of your arms wrapped around the planet, trying to hold it, trying to make everything okay. This fear, this control, this I need everything to be under my control. I need everything to be a certain way. It's reactionary. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. You have to be able to let go. Just like sort of like let go, let God. And that doesn't mean that you have to believe in God. It just means think of God as like the universe, just the world around you. You have to work with it. And if you're working against it, it's coming from a place of emotion and reaction, and it's not, there's no logic in it. You need to be able to calm down and think. And I know a lot of people don't do that, and it's hard, especially like if you have OCD or other types of symptoms. People have trauma and people have things that make them feel like they need to clench. And I get it, but you have to be patient with yourself and you have to at least put effort into letting go. You have more control of yourself than you can even imagine. Like even pain sometimes is kind of your own choice. And if you get enough control of your mind, you can learn to tell your body that the pain that you're feeling is not really necessary. You could, I'm not saying that you could like have open heart surgery and just not feel anything, but I mean, you know, if you know that you've already taken care of the injury, then there's no reason to feel the pain. So you can tell your body that. But not if you just say, no, that's not possible. I'm not even going to try. It's not even possible. Or you could try and then it doesn't work and you're like, hey, it didn't work and I didn't do it. That's because you didn't believe it would work. You know, you have to understand that it's really up to you. And I'm going to do another video about that at some point. But next week I'm going to be talking about death and suicide. Not morality. I'm not talking about like if it's moral to commit suicide or anything. I'm just going to be talking about the topic in general because this year especially, I think that's really necessary because so many people have died this year and a lot of people are having suicidal thoughts because this is such a crazy what like this whole year is just making everybody feel kind of hopeless and like everything is nuts. But I promise you there is a lot more going on than meets the eye. There is no way that the universe would have just randomly come out of nowhere to just eventually stop existing. That things do matter. So you have to trust that. And if you don't, we can talk about it. I'm open to discussions in the comments. Just yeah, just let me know what you think. I have to end this because it's a little over 25 minutes and I want to usually keep these under 25 minutes. But again, I apologize for this episode being a little more frantic than usual and later than usual. Next week will be 4 p.m., same day, Eastern time. And yeah, this was an interesting one. I don't know if I said everything I wanted to. I think I did. I went over all my notes. So yeah, questions are open in the comments. Thank you for watching.